Yo, welcome to my channel Wardrawsalot. Obviously I'm Ward, or I wouldn't have named it Wardrawsalot. I finally finished my old sketchbook, or not old, but my recent sketchbook, and now I finally get to start a new one. And I'm excited because I'm getting to use the OHUHU Sketchbook, which I heard is pretty awesome, and I wanted to try it for myself to see if that was true. It isn't wrapped up in its original wrapping because when I first got it, I immediately took the plastic off and I felt the paper because I was super excited, but otherwise I haven't done anything to the book. The sketchbook is 8.3 by 8.3 inches, has 156 pages or 78 sheets, and retails for $16.99 on Amazon, which is where I got it from. It's got this nice thick strap that goes around the book. It's also hardcover and has this faux leather print, which is actually a really nice feel. It has the little O in the corner right for OHUHU, and it looks nice and shiny on the outside. The paper is a very nice bright white, along with the fact that it is very smooth, and that's the best, or what I feel is the most optimal for marker use, along with the fact that it is perforated on the edges. So let's say you want to take out a piece of paper instead, you could totally do that. There's also a folder in the back that's the exact same size as the paper, which I didn't show because I'm a big dum-dum, along with a plastic sheet that goes behind any paper that you're working on so it does not bleed through to the other side of the paper. So now I could start drawing. There was one thing in particular that I was very inspired by, which was this piece of washi tape, or this roll of washi tape that I bought recently, and it's this cool kind of snake skin design that shifts within the light, and it'll look like a light green in some areas, a dark green in others, and even also has a gold flecks to it on the scales kind of thing. I don't know, it's weird to describe, but it's a really pretty color, and I hope you saw it on the screen really well. For who I'm drawing, it's going to be my OC Nikki. I've had him as an OC since I was 11. That was a very long time ago. I like drawing him, and I haven't drawn him in a while, so I decided to use him as my first page of this new book. As for what pose he's doing, he's just kind of grabbing his jacket, which is going to be that snake pattern, and he's just kind of, looking forward. Not forward, but to the side. As for lining, I wanted to use different liners to try and give him a softer look. So what I did is I used black for the hair and for the eyes, but I used a brown for the skin and I used a green for the jacket, just so when it all gets colored in, it doesn't look so rough or harsh in different areas because of the black. Sometimes I like mixing between using all black liner or different colors because I just like seeing different looks. Now let me talk about the sketchbook a little bit. I really like the sketchbook, and the reason I really like it is because the paper is super smooth, which again is great for markers. The way the pencil gripped onto the paper was nice, it wasn't too slippery, so when I was sketching I was having a pretty nice time. The liners went down very nicely as well. Even when I went back in and I thickened up some areas so there was some line variation, it still went on pretty smoothly. I like how white the paper is because the liners, even let's say they are a little bit opaque. Usually the Copic liners are pretty fine and they have a nice kind of opaqueness to them, but sometimes you're going to have to just go over them a little bit. It showed them very nicely because the paper is so bright, and I like that. Afterwards I took my red Prismacolor pencil and I drew the little snakeskin design all over the jacket, just so I have an idea of where it's going to go when I go in with a Posca pen later. Now for how the colors blended on the paper, they were awesome. I really liked how the markers made a seamless blend on the paper, and I chose some that were relatively close in color range, so obviously you're going to get a smoother gradient because you're using colors that are alike, but the way it diffused the colors across the paper was very nice, and I was really liking the feel of how it was being put down and being spread out on the paper, and it was just an overall really nice experience. And I just came from a really great sketchbook paper too, which is the Marman sketchbook. I made a video on that too if you want to go check that out. But seriously, this was a really good sketchbook, and it was a really nice experience using it, and I do suggest it to people who use markers. I used also Posca on it, but I didn't really do any heavy Posca work on it. It was just mostly marker that I used, but I can vouch for the marker part, so there's that. Also, I almost forgot, for the bleed through, yes, there was some bleed through onto the other side. Of course, it's marker, especially alcohol based marker, but, and this is a big but, because they gave us the little plastic thing that you put behind the page you're working on, none of the marker ink transferred onto the next paper, but instead went onto the little plastic thing, which helps you basically save your money on your paper. What I would do beforehand is I would take pieces of cardstock and I would put it behind the paper I was working on so the same effect would take place, but after a while, you know, paper would eventually get really filled up and it actually would show through to the other side of the paper what was under it, so I'd have to switch out papers every so often. But this piece of plastic right here would probably help avoid that in the future, because I don't think anything's going to transfer on and stay there too long. And I think, and I'm going to try it, that you can get rid of the marker ink that does transfer on to that clear sheet of paper, so that is a huge factor too to me. I also feel like it's nice that the paper has perforated lines, and I know a lot of people don't like perforated lines because paper might eventually fall out, but with these it didn't feel like that. It felt pretty sturdy personally, and until I see something like that happens where the paper falls out on its own, then I'm gonna say, okay, maybe that sucks, but right now I haven't seen that. So I like the idea that people who like to rip out pages on their sketchbook and maybe, let's say, put it on their wall, it's easily accessible and it won't ruin the side of the paper, or you won't have to go in and cut it. So that's a nice little factor too. There's also something that's very ergonomical about this book, which is if the paper does fall out, there is a folder in the back of the book. So you could slide the paper that has fallen out or that you ripped out and put it right into that folder. So that was a pretty smart idea on their part for them to apply something that is very needed, because I know a lot of artists will stick something in the back of their sketchbook. I know I do it all the time. So that's a good idea that they went ahead and implanted that. I used Copic markers for this piece right here. They worked really well and they blended incredibly, and I'm wondering if I use my OHUHU markers, if they would have the same effect, which they should because they're both alcohol based markers, and since the pad, or the marker pad, is used specifically or is stated specifically for OHUHU markers, then it should work just as fine too. I think almost any alcohol based marker would work beautifully in this book. I also used washi tape, and the washi tape stuck down pretty nicely onto the paper. It wasn't really peeling up or anything. So for anybody else who also uses washi tape, I recently just started using it in my drawings. I do suggest it onto the sketchbook because number one, it looks pretty nice, of course. Number two, it's nice to test out different medias in the sketchbook that you're using. Overall, I had a great experience with this sketchbook, and I can't wait to do a billion more drawings in it. Thanks for watching, and remember, I love you.